So I'm Emily and I've lived in Burwell for about 23 years. And my parents met in Burwell as teenagers, and back then it was cheaper to live in the city than it was out in the countryside. So I grew up in Cambridge with my sister, had lots of connections with the village and we're here a lot seeing family. Yeah, came to the Burwell Baptist Church where my parents had been, met my husband here at church, he was the drummer, came over and met him, and then he and I got married there a few years later. Love walking the dog, love living in this part of the world where we've got town on your doorstep but then also lovely country walks and out and about, so we've got the best of both worlds really. So my mum talks a lot about how people's faith or their sort of coming to Jesus can be like a thunderclap, like a huge change in their life, or more of like a sunrise where you've known Jesus a long time and then you sort of come to him in a different way, and that's certainly more how I grew up. Yeah, Nick and I met at church and got married in the church and had some lovely happy years, and then we had a baby, and unfortunately that was a tricky time. Her delivery was very complicated and was very difficult, and I spent quite a long time in ITU when she was born, but we managed to get home and we were just getting back on our feet, and I noticed that Nick had a lump under his arm. How long's that been there? We'd both been so distracted, hadn't noticed. He saw the GP very quickly, and very quickly it was found that he had lymphoma, and it was stage 4 and it had been there for quite some time and we hadn't known. So from spotting this lump under his arm to him starting chemotherapy was about 5 weeks, and it was very aggressive chemotherapy. He was very poorly. Again, with this baby, I was on maternity leave, he was self-employed, there wasn't any money around, like it was awful. He did recover and he was really, really well towards the end of the year, and then he just wasn't right again and he had meningitis, and that was it then. For the next 12, 13 years it was just he'd do a bit better, we'd have some scans, see how he's doing, and they'd find the lymphoma was back again, and it just went round and round and round. Being a nurse, I'm very aware of how poorly people can be. I never celebrated those little improvements. I was very aware that Jesus had it in hand, that the Lord was guiding us and we were covered, but I just couldn't get excited about any future. I think I always thought that living in hope meant being really excited about life and enthusiastic, and I have this amazing hope of Jesus and it's all going to be incredible, but that is not what we were experiencing. We did have hope in Jesus, we still do, and I had, regardless of the outcome, I knew it was what the plan was for us, but it's not what we wanted. I didn't like it, and that was a real steep learning curve for us. That, yeah, I think we'd been so never questioned that living in hope wouldn't be a joyous thing. But actually you can live in hope and still be experiencing these awful things. And that's just what our reality was for a really long time. There's a really good book called Once Saved, Always Saved by R.T. Kendall about how there's nothing that you can do that is going to damage your salvation. Like, there's nothing we can do that is bigger than the cross. There's no mistake we can make or decision we can make or situation we're in that is going to separate us from the love of God. And I very much felt that. Like, I could be cross with the Lord, I could be frustrated, I could be miserable at times, truly, truly miserable. But I never questioned that God wasn't big enough to handle that. Like, me having a tantrum about the way our life was not going to shake him. This unshakable God was so real to us still, despite everything that was going on. 7 years ago today, he had his stem cell transplant, which was incredible. That's made such a difference to him. But 7 years ago, we never thought we'd be this far along. Like we said earlier about that living hope, that joyful, that excitement, that big movement and the cheerfulness. But actually, I don't feel that now after all our experiences, that deep-seated, deep-rooted joy and peace that can't be taken away, that whatever's going on around you, that doesn't go away. And that's Jesus.